Good afternoon and welcome to the Planning Committee held today on the 11th of February. We are joined by officers from Democratic Services, Legal Services and the Planning Division, and for today, an Environmental Health Officer, which he's present for the last item. My name is Councillor Gary Marsh. I'm the Chairman of the Planning Committee, and amongst that crew is my Vice Chairman, Councillor Philip Coote. So first of all, I'm going to do a roll call as they appear on my screen. So Councillor Pulfer.
Present, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Coote, my Vice Chairman. Now you're muted.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Sweatman.
Sorry.
Present.
Councillor Allen.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Phillips.
Present.
Councillor Eggleston.
Present.
Councillor DeBell.
Present.
Councillor McNaughton.
Present.
And Councillor, for the love of money, my brain's just gone dead. Cartwright, sorry.
That's me.
That's you, definitely you, yeah. Before we start, I'm going to ask for a meeting explanation from our legal officer, Jen Bell, please.
Thank you, Chairman. In accordance with regulations made by the government at the start of this pandemic, this meeting of the Planning Committee is being held virtually via a remote video link. The usual procedure rules for debates apply. Members are in control of their microphones and will be called to speak by the Chairman at his discretion. The vote on items 5 to 8 on the agenda will be a named vote, which I will conduct, and members should use the raise hand function to approve the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I should outline the public speaking role. You'll be called in the agenda, the list I have, starting with Katie Turner on the first application. You'll be invited to unmute and put your microphone, your video on. You'll have 3 minutes, and after 2.5 minutes, you'll be prompted that you've only got 30 seconds left. And once you get your 3 minutes up, can I ask you then to conclude in 1 sentence? And when you finish speaking, can you then mute yourself and switch off your video, please? Right, item 2 is receive apologies for absence. I have one, and that's Councillor Neville Walker, and we wish him well on his future operation. Item 3 is to receive declaration of interest and any members in respect on this agenda. Councillor DeBell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In respect of DM 201516, I'm a member of East Grinstead Town Council.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor McNaughton. Oh, yeah, sorry, Councillor DeBell. And can I have the what's your film of your interest, please? I know you said you're a member of. Did you come with an open mind, etc.?
I have come with an open mind, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McNaughton.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I have to declare an interest in DM 20/3955, which is item 6 on the agenda. As cabinet members, as a cabinet member, it's my responsibility, and I've signed off certain documents for that application, so I will withdraw.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pulfer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Need to note an interest in item 7, the removal of a tree in my garden, for which I am not the applicant, but I will withdraw.
Okay, thank you. And I have to declare a personal interest. In the previous administration, certain ward councillors across the district were asked about disposable land that the Mid Sussex District Council owned. And on item 6, the Hang Cross application, that falls within my ward, and at that time I didn't have any problem with it being disposed. But that, as far as my interest sits on that one, I wasn't in the cabinet when they actually disposed of the land. Other than that, that's it. Thank you very much. And item 4 is to I missed out the minutes. Members. It's not on my crib sheet, so I do apologise. all those members who have read the minutes, you take them as a full and proper, or I think just indicate by saying yes on your screen. If you haven't got that facility yet, can you just raise your hand to say you agree with it? Okay, I've just been told the reason why. We are very quick. From our last meeting to this meeting, and they haven't been proposed. So next time we'll have 2 lots of minutes to sign. So I do apologise. The officers were 100% correct. Right, item 4 is consider any items that the chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. And item 5 is the Pinkfield Engineering Limited, Durkins Road, which is DM 201517. And I think this one's yours, Andy.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yes, so the application is for the demolition of an existing building and the erection of a building comprising 8 dwellings, 4 1-bedroom flats and 4 2-bedroom flats plus parking. Just draw members' attention to the update sheet, which I will have received earlier, with 4 additional letters of objection with all the issues set out, and that can be read in conjunction with the existing comments that have been made as part of this application. So the application site is located on a spur road off Durkins Road. It's within the built-up area of East Grinstead. It's located to the east of a number of residential properties along this part of Durkins Road. And you've got the Charlwoods Industrial Estate further to the east of the site, and just this area here just marks out the fact that there's no vehicular access between the residential part of Durkins Road and the industrial estate part of Durkins Road further to the east. From this plan, this plan reflects perhaps the severance between the site and the industrial estate. So it is located in this area here. And you can just see that this site is within this designated Charlwoods Industrial Estate area. And as set out on page 16 of the report, the supporting text to the neighbourhood plan policy indicates the Town Council's support for the relocation of all these industrial units somewhere else and replacement with a mix of uses, which includes housing. So this is the intended direction of travel from the Town Council. The existing building on the site, as you can see here, is a mix of a 2-storey section at the front, and then with a flat roof, and then a double height building with pitched roof further at the rear. So this is the front of the building as you'd see it, the flat roof 2-storey element. With the main entrance below a flat-roofed canopy. And then on the western elevation facing towards the rear of the properties on Durkins Road, you've got a roller shutter door, windows and another door. And then sort of 2 windows at the northern elevation, and then facing onto the industrial estate, which really very few people can see, a series of windows in that elevation. And the floor space is 213 square metres on the ground floor, and then another 25 square metres on the first floor. So the proposal, oh sorry, I should have said, this plan just indicates the sloping nature of the site at the front. So the parking level is at grade with the road here, and then there's a retaining wall where the entrance is. And you can also see that on that western elevation as well. So the proposal is to demolish the existing building, which is dotted pink here, and to replace it with a new building, which has been sited 6 meters to the north from the front of that existing building. And all the distances are shown to the various boundaries of the site. And then there's some a selection of distances towards some neighbouring properties at their nearest points. Okay. So in more detail, the reason for pushing the building back within the site is to allow 8 car parking spaces to be provided. So that's 1 space per flat, and that will be arranged as 4 spaces to the front at grade with the spur of Durkins Road, and then 4 further spaces sort of in front of the building at a lower level. So the retaining wall is intended to be kept in situ, and the proposal includes an electric vehicle charging point. Ongoing negotiations took place with West Sussex Fire and Rescue Service about the access for the building in case of fire, and a plan was submitted to show that yes, there was sufficient width and distance within the site to allow a fire tender to access the site, and that means that the council's refuse vehicles would be able to access the site as well from this area. The bin store is located adjacent to this area here, a bit of a landscaped area there and there. And then the cycle store will be sited at the northern end of the site. And then both entrances to the block will be facing west. And then there'll be some amenity and landscaping area all around the building, a bit of defensible space to the front as well. So in terms of the internal layout, the ground floor will consist of 4 one-bedroom dwellings. So the 2 entrances will be located here, and then 2 flats off each section. So the living space to the front, and then a bedroom at the rear. So all the bedrooms will face towards the rear, and then living room to the front with additional ground floor windows to that side elevation. At first floor level, once you've gone up the stairs, will be the access to the 4 remaining 2-bedroom flats, and there'll be duplex units ranged over 2 floors. So you've got on the outside of this area a main living space with kitchen at the rear, and then same on the other side. And then for the inner 2 units, there'll be the main living and kitchen area to the front, and then the 2nd bedroom at the rear. And then you can just see sort of the staircase going up at the rear. Now, a feature of the design of this building is with the landing window, there'll be some louvers in front of it, and then for the living space, there'll be these 4 oriel windows which will project outwards from the building and above the ground floor level, and they will also be subject to some louvers in front of it as well. So on the 2nd floor, as you've climbed the stairs, on the outer levels, you will outer flats, you will have 2 bedrooms with dormer window facing to the rear towards the industrial estate, and then another one to the north, another one to the south, and then for the inner 2 units, just 1 single bedroom with the dormer facing at the rear, and then the bathrooms will be lit by a roof light, which will be in the front elevation, and then the staircase will be lit from above by roof lights at the rear roof slope. So in terms of the elevation of the building, you can see that from the south, this is the main approach to the building. This will be a 2-storey building with the additional space set within the roof space, with the ground floor windows and first floor and the second floor window. Then you can just see make out the profile of the dormer window at the rear, and then the oriel window with the louvres in front of it. The elevation facing towards the rear of the properties or residential properties on Durkins Road will look like this. And just to show the comparison with the existing building, and you can see from this that you've got the ground floor entrances, and then the windows on the ground floor. The window to the landing above, again with the louvres on it, and then you can see that this is a design of the oriel window, so there'll be no sort of fenestration facing directly from this elevation. All the views will be directed in a southwesterly direction. And as set out in the report, these 2 windows, which also are part of the living space, plus these landing windows are conditioned to be obscure glazed and non-openable, plus the louvres to be provided as well. And then on the northern elevation, there'll also be some louvres on that first and second floor level, again to address the privacy concerns. Then at the rear elevation, you've got the eaves line broken up with sort of in a more projecting element at the rear, and then you can see the dormer windows and roof lights in that elevation. And again, that retaining wall will be kept in situ. The bin store will look like this: timber hit and miss doors, mono-pitched roof with a rendered finish, and then a sort of design of sort of fairly similar timber hit and miss boarding for the bike store at the back. So in terms of what you see on the site, so I took these photos yesterday. This is a view from Lingfield Road at the entrance at the junction with Durkins Road. And there is a sign saying no goods vehicles, residential area only. Should be noted that there is no similar sign from the south, from Wellington Town Road, directly off Charlwoods Road. So looking towards the spur road, you can see the T junction, the sort of dead stop, end stop to this area here. So this road is currently used for parking, but it is unrestricted in that area. And then the residential properties along Durkins Road and Wellington Town Road are either side of that. Just looking a bit further within that area, you're looking towards the industrial estate at the lower level, and then this is the building in question. So you can make out the the existing parking space, which will form 4 spaces in this proposed development. And you can see the change of levels as you drop down the site. So this is a 2-storey section to the front, the main entrance, retaining wall, and then that 2-storey element, and then the fence to the the line of fencing to enclosing the rear of the properties along Durkins Road. And just also that this area does include access to 2 rear garages as well, and then you can just make out some of the buildings, to sort of a mixture of 2-storey and 2.5-storey buildings at the rear. This is a view from within the site, again just showing the fence at a higher sort of closer level and the roller shutter door of the existing building. And then looking back in the opposite direction from that northern elevation, showing the existing building, and then just showing very slightly in context with the existing residential properties, of which they are at a sort of generally higher level than the application site. Of course, the road level does drop towards the north as well. And just turning round, this is looking directly west, and then in a northwesterly direction at the top of the site. And I just wanted to also show a couple of photos taken from the public file from neighbouring residents. So this is from the rear decking area of number 16, Durkins Road, looking out towards the building. You can make out the sort of one of the windows and the roller shutter doors, and then also from number 22 from the from the decking area of the garden, again showing that building in context. So as set out in the report, the main issues are considered to be the loss of the employment use, and your officers consider that the marketing has been carried out with evidence as part of this process, and therefore the loss of that employment use is deemed to be acceptable for the reasons as set out in the report. The new residential use is considered to be supported in policy terms as well, and specifically under the policy set out in the report, including policy SS5 of the neighbourhood plan. And in terms of the impact on residential amenity, the design is considered to have addressed what could be a loss of privacy to neighbouring properties by the use of those oriel windows and the louvers. And subject to condition, it's considered that the proposed development would not have a significantly harmful effect on neighbouring amenity. So for those reasons and more are set out in the report, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Andy. We've now got some public speakers. Can I call Katie Turner to switch on her microphone and video, please? Thank you.
Hello.
Sorry, I said, yeah, Katie Turner, that's right.
Yeah.
Your 3 minutes will start when you begin your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm speaking today in strong objection of the proposed development. I'm a resident of Durkins Road, and the back of my house looks onto the site and measures just 19 metres away. As well as myself, 24 other immediate local residents have objected to this unneighbourly proposal. The proposed building is 3.5 metres taller than the current building, which will completely take away residents' privacy and will dominate our outlook, which is currently of woodland and the old convent. DP 26 of the Mid-Sussex District Plan clearly conditions that a new development does not cause significant harm to the amenities of existing nearby residents, including taking account of the impact on privacy, outlook, daylight and sunlight. However, with the planning proposed as it stands, there's a huge impact on residents' privacy and outlook. The outlook for residents will be nothing but a block of flats, therefore a complete loss of outlook. The application and some of the supporting comments have mentioned the angled windows, but failed to recognise the 4 on the first floor, which will look straight into our gardens and straight into our homes, meaning there's a complete loss of privacy. Those who have supported this application have not been inside our homes or stood in our gardens to be able to pass judgment on our complete loss of privacy and outlook from this proposal. The surrounding buildings along Derkins Road, which will be directly affected by this application, are Victorian semi-detached houses, and so this proposed block of flats will be completely out of place and scale to the surrounding area. The proposed height of the building would totally dominate the current residential homes here. This goes against criteria documented under DP 26 in the district plan, which states that applicants should demonstrate that proposed development creates a sense of place while addressing the character and scale of the surrounding buildings and landscape. DP 26 also conditions that an application is of a high quality design and layout. This application does not comply with the conditions, as the latest noise report states that residents would not be able to open their windows in order to achieve a quality night's sleep. Therefore, it goes against the World Health Organization guidelines. As well as this, the extremely close proximity to a tall fence and the overhang of the angled windows above will cause a very dark and dreary environment in the ground floor flats. Whilst I appreciate and fully support a redevelopment of this soon-to-be disused site, I cannot support the overbearingness of the current plan, and it is not in line with the conditions outlined in the district plan and the East Grinstead neighbourhood plan. There's simply too many flats proposed and the height is insufferable.
Got 30 seconds, Miss Turner.
Thank you. A smaller development here would be supported by residents, as well as conditions of approval such as replacing the dilapidated boundary fence at the end of our gardens for resident security, maybe adding some mature laurels and ensuring that the windows faced in our direction are obscured and unable to be opened in order to protect our privacy. And that's it. Thank you.
Well timed. Thank you very much. Can you mute yourself and switch off your video, please? And I will call Angela Joseph, please, if you can unmute and switch on your video, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Your 30 seconds will, sorry, 3 minutes will start when you start talking. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Within chapter DP 26 of the Mid-Sussex District Plan, Character and Design, it mentions that the build creates a pedestrian-friendly layout that is safe. The road leading to the plot in the is not pedestrianised, nor particularly safe. Cars park on one side, leaving very little space for pedestrians and cars to pass simultaneously. DP 26 Character and Design contributes positively to and clearly defines public and private realms and should normally be designed with active building frontages, facing streets and public open spaces. The building frontage will face my back fence and the rear an industrial estate, neither street nor public open space, nor does it contribute positively to the private realms of current residents for reasons I'm going to explain. To animate and provide natural surveillance, the definition being that the architectural design limits the opportunity for crime by enhancing that a potential offender might be or will be seen. I see no mention of security measures for the plot, which is tucked away from the road. Currently, if anyone accesses the rear of our properties, it is obvious, and other than the use of the warehouse, there is no need to access this area. Currently, the security risk to our properties heightens when the potential footfall increases. The current fence has had to be secured by best possible by our residents of Derkins Road, as it is substandard and has never been maintained by the person responsible. Could you please confirm how you plan to mitigate this security risk and what plans there are to rebuild a safe and secure, aesthetically pleasing boundary? Creates a sense of place while addressing the character and scale of the surrounding buildings and landscape. I strongly disbelieve the proposed building fits into the surrounding landscape. It is overbearing, out of scale, and out of character in appearance compared to our Victorian properties it backs onto. The visual impact will not only be jarring, but negatively changes mine and other residents' outlook. It does not cause significant harm, including impact on privacy, outlook, daylight, etc. The proximity has increased, and the height of the planned building will undoubtedly block the sunlight and cast shadows on our gardens and adversely affect the stream of daylight into our rear
30
room.
seconds, Ms. Joseph.
No doubt the light pollution will increase due to the closeness, increased windows and plans for the communal spaces. A way of mitigating one aspect of lack of privacy would be to flip around the living areas and sleeping areas of the proposed building. I go along with the fact that the current building should be redeveloped in some way, but feel the proposed two-storey build is unacceptable overdevelopment of the site, and feel a smaller single-storey plan would be less obtrusive and more acceptable.
Well timed. Thank you very much. Could you switch your video off and your microphone off, please?
Sure.
And I now call Joanna Halcrow. If you'd like to unmute and put your, thank you very much. And your 3 minutes will start as soon as you start to speak.
Thank you. So this is an objection. The proposed building is far too high and directly overlooks not only my whole garden, but also directly looks into my bathroom, my dining room and my daughter's bedroom, which is a direct infringement of our privacy. We will not be able to open our bathroom window as anyone in that building will see directly into it. Although it states on the plans that the windows will be slanted, you will still be able to see out of them into my property. There are also two very large windows which are not slanted, which are directly in line with my property. According to the Mid-Sussex District Plan DP 26, which includes that the building does not cause significant harm to the amenities of existing nearby residents and future occupants of new dwellings, taking into account the impact on privacy, outlook, daylight and sunlight, you can see from the plans that this certainly is not the case. As the building is so high, my outlook will totally change. All I'll be able to see is the building and no longer see the trees that are my current outlook. My garden, which enjoys sunshine all day, will be left in shade all day from the height of this building. And of course, it will have a huge impact on my family's privacy. The noise from the industrial estate exceeds the WHO guidelines, which states for a good night's sleep, the equivalent sound level should not exceed 30 dB for continuous background noise, and individual noise exceeding 45 dB should be avoided. Peak acoustic noise reports record HGV movement at about 1:30 AM every night is about 55 to 60 dB, way over the WHO recommended level, which even with closed windows will impact on the occupants. In the East Grinstead Neighbourhood Plan, point EG3 states that the form of the proposed development is proportionate and in keeping with scale, height, materials and site coverage. The proposed building does not comply with this as it's 3.5 metres higher than the building is currently, and there are no buildings in the surrounding areas that high. Policy EG10A of the East Grinstead Neighbourhood Plan also states planning permission will only be granted if it can be demonstrated the site has been unsuccessfully marketed for a period of 6 months. An advert was put in a local paper, but was actually for the property to be rented, not for sale. Whilst this was being advertised, the owner was approached by a local building company on the 24th of August 2020 who wanted to buy it to store his building
Well, 30
materials.
seconds, Ms. Halcrow.
Thank you. But the current owner categorically denied that the building was for sale. This builder can be contacted to confirm this. This also goes against those guidelines. In conclusion, this current plan does not fit in with the Mid-Sussex and East Grinstead planning guidelines. The plan needs to be looked at again. Perhaps the new plans can show a building that remains the same height as the current building, which will stop the privacy and outlook problem. And perhaps the bedroom windows can be on the residential side so that the main living areas look away from current residents.
Again, well timed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a councillor, I think, from East Grinstead Town Council. I think he's speaking on behalf of East Grinstead Town Council. Is that correct? He's not, right. Okay, Okay, we haven't got Councillor Jury here. So I now have Hamish Watson. So if you could unmute and put your microphone on. Thank you. Mr. Watson, can you hear me? Technology, wonderful. Mr. Watson, you've unmuted. Can you put your video camera on, please? Okay, there you are. Right, can you start your presentation? Your 3 minutes will start from the moment you start talking.
Can you see me or hear me?
I can see you. Well, a fixed picture of you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
If you put your hand up, if you can't hear me, then I'll stop. May I start by thanking the chairman and members of the committee for providing me with the opportunity to speak today. My name is Hamish Watson and I'm a planning consultant. This proposal was the subject of pre-application discussions with the council, which helped to develop the scheme, as have further discussions during the course of the consideration of the proposals. Prior to the submission of the application, the factory site was marketed for commercial purposes, and your officers confirmed that they are satisfied that it has been demonstrated that the site is no longer required for employment or business uses. Their report goes on to confirm that the current development plan is fully supportive of the principle of housing development on such sites such as this, and that there are no transport grounds on which to resist this proposal. The access to the site is through narrow roads within a residential area, and on-street parking further restricts the ability of commercial vehicles to access the site. As set out in our transport report, the residential use of the site will generate significantly less traffic on and around the site than would the commercial reuse of the site. Added to this, the proposal leads to the removal of the existing rear parking and associated access drive along the rear gardens of properties on Durkins Road, leading to improvements to the amenities of neighbouring residents in respect of reduced noise and disturbance adjacent to their gardens, as well as less traffic on the access roads. The building has been carefully designed to respond to its setting and to protect the amenities of neighbouring residents. As set out in the officer's report, neighbouring dwellings on Durkins Road are set on a higher ground level, and the proposal provides a roof that slopes away from them, minimising the impact that would arise from the proposal. Your officers further confirm that the proposal will not be overbearing or lead to unacceptable loss of light or outlook. The louvers to the windows have been designed to allow light into the building whilst restricting the ability to overlook neighbouring properties. The details of these louvers are to be controlled by condition 4 as set out in the report. This will ensure that no unacceptable overlooking will arise. Matters raised by local residents have been addressed through the officer's report. Conditions 8, 9, 11 and 12 give the council control of the construction process in respect of deliveries, construction traffic and noise and activity, as well as site safety and working hours, whilst conditions 6 and 14 address drainage details. Boundary details are required by condition 13. These conditions address a number of the concerns raised by neighbours, requiring details to be submitted to the council for approval. The proposal accords with the required space standards, your parking standards and the council's housing mix requirements. The neighbourhood plan is supportive of the redevelopment of the site for residential uses within this Charlwood industrial estate, and a legal agreement is being prepared to secure contributions. Having regard to the above, I respectfully request that you grant permission for this proposal in line with your officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Likewise, if you could mute and switch your video off, please. Members may briefly have seen Councillor Webster. He wished to speak, but unfortunately he's contacted me, saying he's having problems with his broadband. He's going to endeavour to come back, but since we're about to go into debate, he's not. I won't allow him to speak. So, members, we're now into the debate. Does anybody wish to speak? Councillor Sweatman, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it's been highlighted by one of your other speakers. I think this is overdevelopment of the site. It's actually trying to squeeze something into a quality spot that, you know, with 8 flats going in there, you know, it's certainly overdevelopment. And as one of your speakers has actually said, the actual ridge height of the building is going to be 3.5 meters actually higher. So I think that will have an impact on the neighbouring properties with outlook and loss of sunlight. So, you know, I disagree with the officer's report on that. One of the other things I would like the case officer to explain or confirm is that there is no visitor parking there, which is the road surrounding Durkins Road and Wellington Road is very narrow, as you've seen on the photographs. So where are visitors going to park? And the other question is will the refuse lorries be able to turn round into the site, or will they have to back out? Going on to another point, I'm rather concerned with the Environmental Protections Officer's report, and as already one of the speakers had mentioned, they done a study, and I think it was over 6 weekdays, and HGV lorries are manoeuvring on the industrial estate at about 1 o'clock to 1:30 in the morning, and according to the officer, that will likely to have a significantly adverse effect by nighttime noise. I would also like to go on, as one of the speakers already mentioned, about the WHO guidelines. And there are occasions when this guidance could be breached if occupants sleep with the windows open. And I know what they plan to do is to have mechanical ventilation, and the answer is to close the windows to stop the noise. Well, I find that totally unacceptable. In the summertime, you're going to need to open the windows. And he states in the report on page 43, I would question whether it is desirable for individuals to sleep with the windows closed all the year round to mitigate this. So that's the environmental officer saying that. And my concern is with the future residents of these buildings. Although also go on to say in the second paragraph on the same page, 43, as mentioned before, there are a number of planning appeals where this issue has been commented on, and the prevailing view of inspectors seems to be that closed window solutions are not desirable, but can be acceptable for traffic noise and or general background noise, but are far less acceptable when noises of an industrial or commercial nature. So of serious concerns on that point, Mr. Chairman. So I'm not very happy with that. I think it's overdevelopment. I think you could actually, you know, reduce the amount on there, although the window issue or closing windows might come into play a little bit, but it wouldn't be as many residents affected on that site as with the number that is proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweatman. Now, before I ask the officer to, because there was a number of questions you say, Mr. Watson, can you switch your video off, please? Mr. Watson, thank you. Mr. Watt, there was a number of questions there that Councillor Sweatman raised. Before I go to the other members who have indicated to speak, have you got any answers to them, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, the application provides for 8 parking spaces, and that's 1 per flat. So there is no additional visitor parking spaces. But as observed, there are no formal restrictions on this surrounding area. And it is noted that the Highway Authority consider that parking provision is acceptable in this location. In terms of Councillor Sweatman's second question about the refuse vehicles, the the site plan that I originally shared as part of the presentation showed that there was sufficient width for a fire tender to access the site. So that would be the case with the council's refuse vehicles as well, to be located right next to the siting of the proposed bin store. And although I would assume that such vehicles would either have to reverse into that spur road or out of it. So yes, that is possible for that access to be provided. And in terms of the noise issues, I think it's important to firstly point out that the council's environmental health officer has not objected to the application. So part of the reason for the application taking the time it's taken to get to this stage is has been some negotiation with between the applicant's agent and the council's environmental health team in order to get or to secure a fairly good cross section of noise measurements. So most of the measurements were taken at that first floor level of the existing building, sort of in an easterly direction, directly towards the industrial estate. Although those WHO guidelines set out some noise levels that is in an ideal situation, they are guidelines rather than actual requirements. And it should be noted that obviously with the juxtaposition of the existing residential properties, those residents will also suffer to a degree from sort of intermittent noise levels from that industrial estate. And you'll note, obviously, in the report and in my presentation earlier, I noted that the direction of travel from the town council was to ultimately replace this industrial estate with a different mix of uses. So I think on that basis, we would have some difficulty in defending, I think, an unacceptable degree of harm to the future residents without the support of the council's environmental health team, and that's why the recommendation has been made as it is. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Watt. Councillor de Bell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I was pleased to hear what the speakers said about not being averse to the redevelopment of this site, but that, as in my opinion, Councillor Sweatman said, it's trying to squeeze a quart into a pint pot. However, I'm a little bit surprised that West Sussex County Highways decided not to visit the site, but accepted what was actually said. On page 45, the applicant has provided a transport report which the Highway Authority has examined in detail, and they've accepted it without actually visiting the site. I find that very difficult to understand. If you look at the approach road, it's already full of cars now. And if, as Mr. Watts said, that the number of people parking at these flats is then increased just a few, it will fill that street up. And then the only way that you'll get a fire engine down there is over the top of them. And that does happen. So I'm totally averse to what is being said by West Sussex Highways. They should have had a look at this if they and done a proper report, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I will say. Everything that I've heard and everything that I've read suggests that this is too much of a development, too much overdevelopment in this particular area, and it will create danger. There was talk about the actual sewerage pipes, whether they would actually take this. I have been completely open about this all the way through, but I think on a balance, what I've heard is I should vote against this, in my opinion, unless it's changed during the rest of this meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor de Bell. Unfortunately, the highways haven't objected, which is their normal modus operandi. And as we know, they'll only come out if requested by the officers and the local ward members under the traffic light scheme. So it is a shame, but I don't think we got any grounds at all with the highways, unfortunately. So Councillor Pulfer, you were next to indicate to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Simply put, I support everything that Councillor de Bell and Councillor Sweatman says, so I shan't comment on any of that, with the exception that I think it's unreasonable to build a building with bedrooms and stuff in it where you can't open the windows. I think in this day and age that is totally unacceptable. Just a little comment, I haven't seen anything about the demolition of the building and the asbestos removal, which presumably would need air pressure, and just to comment on the sewer capacity too. We've got 4 2-bedroom flats, but for the 2-bedroom flats, we know there's going to be 2 cars, but we only have 1 parking space. And I won't comment on the parking because that's already adequately been done. My final comment, Mr. Chairman, is that with the bins, presumably they're going to be commercially emptied, and that being so, I would ask, if this were to go through, that there would be a condition that they wouldn't be emptied before 7 AM and after 6 PM in the evening. And just to close too, I'd like to thank Andrew Watt for going for the extra mile by providing the photographs. I think they are invaluable, and thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It won't be commercial, it will be MSDC with Serco, and a lot of flatted use these stat bins. So the lorries we have the ability to pick up individual bins as we use on our daily basis, but they also have the ability to pick up the big bins as well. So it'll be MSDC led bin collections. My Vice Chairman, Councillor Coote.
I'd like to speak last, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Chairman. Could the officer confirm or otherwise whether I don't think there was a footpath on the final access road into the site, because not only the parking, I'm not sure it's safe for pedestrians to actually walk along there. Could he confirm that or otherwise, please?
Yeah,
I'll get him to return. Yes, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, Chairman.
No, it's all gone. You carry on.
Yeah, I'll just show one of the photos again. Yeah, so this is the access into that spur road from Durkins Road. The car's parked here. You can see there's a little bit of a refuge area here, but not a formal footway at all. And then just further into the site, again, it's roadway.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Phillips?
Yes, thank you, Chairman.
Right, thank you. Councillor Eggleston.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So if this is genuinely a brownfield site, then, and as it says in the East Grinstead neighbourhood plan, it is a site that should be developed for alternative use. But I don't think that means it's open season for overdevelopment. And I am also somewhat concerned that the scale of this development is too great for the site concerned. So 2 main concerns one main concern about access. So I studied Google Maps last night, and looking at the parked cars on that access road, and I've really struggled to see how a fire engine or refuse disposal vehicle could safely navigate in and out of that access road, because it is extraordinarily tight. I live up a small lane myself and know how difficult it is for larger vehicles to gain access. So I think that's problematic. I think also for the new residents, I am concerned about the noise issue. And there is this thing that although sometimes background noise at a lowish decibel level of say 45 to 50 sounds low, but if it is persistent, it can be as much of a nuisance as sporadic higher noises. And I think if the report is saying that there are occasions where it is going to be a nuisance to new residents, the answer isn't that they close their windows. People should have the right to open and close their windows whenever they choose. We're a free country in that respect. And so if that's a concern, then that would count against the proposal for me. And then finally, as other speakers have said, I think the less so the design. I mean, we just, if we live in an area of Victorian housing, we can't expect all new buildings to be in a Victorian style, but they should be in a style that's complementary to their setting. So, and it's a matter of judgment as to whether these are complementary to their setting or not. But they are built to a reasonably significant higher level than the existing building, and so again, unless anyone can persuade me otherwise, it strikes me as being certainly on the borderline of overdevelopment. If this was 6 flats, it probably is okay. 8 is probably too much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Eggleston. Before I go to my Vice Chairman, I just want to ask Mr. Watt. One of the questions, or one of the statements was made by one of the speakers regarding the height. Am I led to believe that is the slope away from the Victorian houses or away from the industrial side? Because I think it's quite relevant regarding the overlooking of the gardens from the bedrooms.
Yeah, the site levels drop away. First of all, sort of towards that northeast part, so those buildings at that northern level will be lower than those near the spur road, and then the site also is lower than the houses along Durkins Road, sort of those that sort of slab level, and then I think the actual business area is lower still.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor McNaughton.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I've listened with interest. I've got one question for the officers that he, excuse me, if he could clear up something. I wondered if, because I didn't see it on the plan and I can't find it at home, the distance between the proposed new block of flats and the houses in Durkins Road, the distance back to back. I would be interested to see what they are, because on this plan they don't look a lot different from the distance to the houses on the other side of the road, and I wondered where we stood with our back-to-back window to window that we would usually deem to be acceptable. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Before I go to my Vice Chairman, Mr. Watt, do you have the answer to that one, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Again, I'll just go back to sharing my screen with members. So these are the selected distances to the rear of existing properties on Durkins Road from the siting of the new building. So there's a corner-to-corner relationship of 17, just over 17 metres, and then 10 metres to the rear garden, and then 19 metres sort of from that side elevation, and then a greater distance further to the southwest. And I think really, if as neighbours have quite rightly said, I think for those central windows, which I'll just again show you the elevation. If these windows here and the landing windows, which do face directly towards those houses, if there was no protection in terms of conditions, then yes, I think that there might be an overlooking issue that officers might consider to be sort of harmful, significantly harmful. But with the safeguards in place through the condition about making sure that those directly facing windows, those 4 that I'm just pointing out here, then that should be sufficient. And then with the oriel windows, which obviously project out from the window, but they direct the views in a southwesterly direction, so really from across the garden. So in terms of sort of direct looking back to the houses themselves, that design solution would not result in a significantly harmful loss of privacy to neighbouring residents. And obviously from the photos that I've shown, particularly from the application site, you can see that there are a number of dormer windows and upper, all of them have upper level windows, and they all overlook each other's gardens anyway, and then some of them are angled a little bit more obliquely to each other. So, and then with the louvers as well, it's an additional safeguard for privacy, sort of particularly to the north, and then for yeah. Okay, thank you.
Members, I'm just going to take some legal advice here a second. Sorry to members, I was just taking some advice from the Chief Legal Officer and the Head of Planning at this meeting here tonight. Finally, Councillor McNaughty, do you wish to come back before Councillor Coote?
Thank you for allowing me to come back, Chairman. It was just I was worried that we're talking about overlooking and people's views and people being able to see into their gardens, and to be quite honest, the distance would be an acceptable distance even if they could, but as has been explained by the case officer, we can't. I just wanted to make sure that we don't use reasons that aren't sustainable in any way. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, yeah, that sensible speak. Thank you very much. Councillor Coote, my Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I'd like to clear up the distance of access there. I know that particular access very well. The maximum width of any vehicle other than with special licenses is 8'3" in old money, and in new money it's 2.44 meters. And there is certainly plenty of room for a vehicle of that width to get down there. Secondly, I do appreciate the speaker's comments. However, it is an engineering works, and I don't know whether they've ever heard a mechanical hammer going or something of the ilk. You could get somebody moved in there, which would create an immense amount of noise and would be very unpleasant. Finally, Chairman, I appreciate what the speakers have said and also my colleagues on the council. However, I do feel that if this went to appeal, as the officer said, we would not be able to defend it and we would lose it. And so therefore, I would like to propose that we accept the officer's decision.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that, for the proposal? Councillor Cogunner-White. Right, could members, Jen Bell's going to read out our names. Can you indicate you're for the approval or against the approval? So, Jen Bell?
Yeah, so this is a vote in accordance with the officer's recommendation to grant permission in accordance with recommendation A, which is subject to a section 106 agreement and the conditions set out in Appendix A, and also recommendation B, that should a satisfactory section 106 not be signed by the 11th of May 2021, discretion is given to refuse the application. Please say for or against or abstain when I call your name. Councillor Allen.
Against.
Councillor Cartwright.
Against.
Councillor Cogunner-White.
For.
Councillor Coote.
For.
Councillor de Bell.
Against.
Councillor Eggleston.
Against.
Councillor McNaughton.
For.
Sorry, I don't know if that was me. Was that for?
Yes.
For.
Thank you. Chairman.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
No, we didn't hear you. You muted yourself when you said for or against.
Sorry, against. Sorry.
Councillor Pulfer.
Against.
Councillor Sweatman.
Against.
Okay, now
I make that. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I made that 7 against and 3. It's 4, so that motion fails.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a proposal for refusal? But before we do, I need to confer with the officers because we might need a couple of minutes for the reasons for it. But I'll have a proposal and a seconder for refusing the application, please. Who's going to propose it? Anybody proposing to refuse it? That's Councillor Sweatman. A seconder? Councillor de Bell. Right, now, before we take the vote, I just need to confer with my legal officers a second. Councillor Sweatman, can you give me your reasons for refusal and against what policies does it contravene, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it's basically overdevelopment of the site. I haven't got that particular policy to hand, and environmental issues in respect of the future of the future residents.
Okay, I thought that the okay. Councillor de Bell, do you concur with the reasons for refusal?
I do indeed, sir, and I will also suggest that to do with the approach road, which is unrestricted, I've got some concerns there, so if that could be put into it as well.
I'm not sure we can put that in because the highways did offer no objection, unfortunately, which is a shame. Okay, right. I'm just going to have to speak to my officers a second. I've asked, not councillor, Steve Ashdown, the senior planning officer, to speak to the committee a second because I need to know in what harm is it actually doing. So, Mr. Ashdown.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, obviously noted down the Councillor Sweetman's motion in terms of refusal, and I note members' concerns about overdevelopment. But overdevelopment itself is not a reason for refusal. You have to demonstrate what is unacceptable about the development and what harm that causes. So obviously, as I say, I've heard concerns raised about the height of the building, the proximity to existing residential properties. Obviously, officers are quite clear on where we stand in terms of those issues. You know, the building itself, I believe, is approximately 9.5 meters high, which is, you know, probably the same height as the existing residential buildings within the area. So overdevelopment itself cannot be the reason for refusal. It might be the end result, but you need to demonstrate what aspects of the development result in the overdevelopment, if you see what I mean. So as that stands, Chairman, there's not enough detail there to justify a reason for refusal. Note the concerns about the environmental issues, which I assume relate to the noise concerns raised by the environmental health officer. I think it's just worth noting that, as Mr. Watt did, that there is no objection from the environmental health officer in respect to development. The arrangement of close windows, while not desirable, is not unusual. And I think it's worth saying that there are residential properties in close proximity and within in industrial estates. I think in terms of Victoria Road in Burgess Hill, there are residential properties in those estates. And I think as Councillor Marsh alluded to, the concerns in relation to the approach road, there are no objections from the local highway authority. So in terms of sustaining a reason for refusal on those grounds, then the council would struggle. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Speckman.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wonder if the officer can say whether we could use actually DP 29, noise, air and light pollution, especially when we're considering the noise from the Charwood's estate at vehicles moving at 1 o'clock in the morning.
I'm struggling with that one, Councillor Sweatman, because they can move now even without any housing there. But I'll take Mr. Ashton on that one, but I think you can drive around the estate at 1 o'clock now, even without any housing. So I'm afraid I'm not sure about that one. Mr. Ashdown, is that defensible?
DP 29 is the policy that deals with noise pollution, and would be the policy you'd reference if you are concerned in terms of the noise to residential or future residential amenity. Again, I would just refer to the environmental health comment and the fact that there is no formal objection in respect of that, Chairman.
Yeah, I think we would struggle with that one. Does Councillor Sweatman, you were the proposal, are you? Well, I think we would struggle. I'm going to ask my fellow ward councillor, Councillor McNaughton, who's the portfolio holder, because I think an interjection of bit of common sense may be needed. Councillor McNaughton.
I've never been credited with common sense, but to be perfectly honest, as it stands, I haven't heard a sustainable reason for refusal. It is very, very difficult, and I understand the neighbours who think they're going to have something worse. I mean, if that unit were to be redeveloped, knocked down and rebuilt a lot taller, even into offices, they could have windows facing their way and overlooking. To be quite honest, I can't see a reason. As I said, the distance of 19 metres back to back, a lot of developments that we have, and it is a distance that we actually allow where we can have windows back to back. And if you look on the front, it's probably no different across the road where you've got window to window. That's acceptable, but we haven't got windows overlooking, not habitable rooms overlooking. We do have the stairway, but that's got louvers on it. To be quite honest, it's one of those things. It's a brown site. I think you really do need something far stronger than we've got at the moment to go for a refusal. You've got to listen to your officers. I mean, they're the ones that have to defend whatever decision we do take, and I haven't heard a strong enough reason for refusal yet.
Thank you, Councillor McNaughton, portfolio holder. Councillor Sweatman, are you going to continue with that one? Because I feel we would get actually hammered in the if it went to appeal. You're muted, Dick.
Sorry, Chairman. Well, we have DP 26, about causing significant harm to the amenities of existing nearby residents and future occupants of new dwellings, including, which I think that is the case, which is privacy, outlook, daylight, and certainly sunlight, and creates a pedestrian-friendly layout that is safe and well connected. Well, it's not well connected, although highways say it is. There's no footpath there with cars parked on either side of the road. So I just wonder whether that's something we could use.
Can you just read that again? Because I'm reading it now.
DP 26, page 17.
Yeah, I've got page 19. It does not cause significant harm to the amenities of existing nearby residents and future occupants of new dwellings, including taking into account of privacy, which, as we've just heard, doesn't. Outlook, I don't think that does it. Daylight, struggle. Sunlight, doesn't come into the 30% rule. Noise, air and light pollution. Mr. Ashdown, help us please, because I think we might be fishing here.
Thank you, Chairman. I think just to clarify I think the last point that Councillor Sweetman and a couple of other members that have made in terms of the access and a pedestrian-friendly environment. As many of you will know, it's not uncommon on new developments to have shared surfaces where pedestrians, parked cars and vehicles all share as one. This is an access that leads directly to the application site. While there is parked cars on one side, the level of traffic and the speed of that traffic would be minimal. So I certainly would strongly advise against any reason for refusal that incorporated that, because I certainly don't believe that is sustainable. I don't want to label the point, because you're aware of what the officers' views are in terms of the impact on residential amenity, which is essentially what DP 26 alludes to in terms of outlook, privacy, noise, etc. Officers are not saying there isn't an impact, because there is an impact. There will be an impact both on existing residents and future residents. The test is whether that is likely significant harm. Your officer's view is it isn't. If committee believe that it is to be a likely significant harm, then you need to clearly set out what aspects of the development are likely to cause that harm. And certainly, Chairman, at this minute in time, that certainly hasn't been made clear to me exactly what aspects of the development are causing the likely harm which members are alluding to.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ashton. I'm just going to speak to my solicitor a second. Members, under DP 26, you've got to say is there a significant harm, and I haven't heard anything yet to be significant harm. If you think there is significant harm, we would have to take it to appeal. The fact is, the advice I've just been given, it will be very, very hard to defend that at an appeal, and I would expect the proposer and seconder to attend that appeal to explain why they proposed and seconded that. And if the officer, the inspector, decided to go against us, and he can award costs, and any control that we had over this process is taken out of our hands, well, not our hands, the officer's hands, and we would have something imposed on us. So I would ask, I'm not saying we shouldn't, I'm in the hands of the committee, but I do need to have a strong reason to refuse this. And I'm looking at DP 26. I can't see a significant harm from what you're proposing. Yes, there are, just because we don't like it and we think it's too many flats, that unfortunately is not a reason to refuse. So I'll ask the question again. Councillor Sweatman, are you still happy to propose that? Because I'm afraid yourself and the seconder will be expected to attend and give statements on the fact.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I'm not worried about attending or giving statements, but a lot of the committee, well, obviously have refused it, but it seems quite apparent now. We haven't got a leg to stand on as regards policies, as the officer has alluded to. So I'm a little bit disappointed, but I really don't know where we go from here.
Yeah, I think we're in the devil in the deep blue sea, Councillor Sweatman. Does it cause harm? Probably. Does it cause significant harm? Unlikely. Unfortunately, it's the significant harm to as referenced in DP 26. And I just can't see how it does cause significant harm. I'm only your chairman, I'm in the hands of yourselves. If you feel there is, and you're prepared to take the chance, and I don't think chance is what we should be doing. We should have sound planning reasons. And unfortunately, I just don't think there are sound planning reasons for this. Highways, if we could have used highways, but they've not had any complaints about it. The environmental assessment by our own officers have decided there's no reason, they haven't objected to it, they don't like it. But again, there's no objection to the actual application. So are you prepared still? Oh, hang on, I've got loads of things coming up here. I'll go them as I can see them. Councillor Pulfer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Actually, saying that, can I just, I better go to the seconder because it's only fair to go to the seconder. Councillor DeBell.
That's very kind. I'm sure that Councillor Pulver will have a much better slant on this than I have. I found this very educational. It certainly taught me a lesson. The fact is that I think it is vitally important, obviously, to follow our officer's recommendation. We're in a cleft stick. In my opinion, the singular and most important issue is to do with being able to get in and out, and yet because highways haven't objected, and then we can't use that. The second thing is that I think that the general feeling is that if they were to say go for 4 to 6 flats or 4 to without the extra height, then we'd find it perfectly acceptable. And to do with car parking spaces, but none of these are quite valid under the terms of what we're wanting to do. So I think what we need is a very wise head, as you said, and that's Councillor McNaughton, to give us a good steer as where we go from here, because it's far more important that good intentions are turned into something that is acceptable. Otherwise, we're going to make ourselves look really stupid as a committee, and we don't want to do that. So, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I agree, Councillor DeBell. If I'd been portfolio holder, I think I'd give them the same advice as Councillor McNaughton, and I think I did on occasions when I was portfolio holder. Before I go to Councillor McNaughton, Councillor Pulfer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just picking up on your point that yes, we are between a rock and a hard place, because obviously a number of councillors feel that it's not right, but we're probably struggling to find the correct DP reasons to go with it. Do you think the applicant would be agreeable to us delaying a decision? Because I don't think anybody disagrees with the fact that something has got to go on this site. It's perhaps not quite this building, and I'm sure that there could be something really amicably sorted out between the applicant and, shall we say, the desires and comments made by the public, which could come to a really amicable situation and be an absolute win-win for both parties. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That sounds sound advice. Unfortunately, the applicant isn't actually at the meeting. Her representative is, and I'm not allowed to ask the applicant. We've got to deal with the application we've got in front of us, unfortunately. Councillor Eggleston.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And I concur with that last comment. We can only judge what we see, and the committee has refused it. And we
haven't got it refused yet. We're trying to get through that bit.
We haven't approved it, and a majority,
that's true.
A majority of councillors have declined to support it, and I certainly would feel really uncomfortable today in committee being, or those of us who voted against, being asked to vote again to change our minds, because I do see the dilemma that you're in and the officers are in, that we're struggling to find coherent reasons that we believe we can defend on appeal. As a variation on a theme of Councillor Pulfer's suggestion, I mean, it might be of benefit to us if this application was taken away, and if, rather than trying to work out, on the hoof what we might or might not say, whether officers could bring it back to a subsequent committee and set out for us, what we might be able to go forward with as a refusal, or if we can't, set out quite clearly why the arguments that we advanced are not sustainable upon an appeal. We could then at the same time open up a dialogue with the applicant to see whether any further changes they were minded to make, but of course they're under no obligation to do that. But it might just give us all a bit more time to reflect on the debate that we've had on this particular item, rather than us all go away feeling uncomfortable about either the original decision that was made or the need to for us to change our minds.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Unfortunately, if we were to go for a deferral, we could actually be done for non-determination, and we could still be subject to cost and an appeal. Councillor McNaughton, please.
Fortunately, you've just covered it, Chairman. I don't know when this has to be determined by, but the applicant doesn't have to wait. If we don't determine it, he can just go straight to appeal on non-determination. And we would then be in the same position as we are now. We couldn't defend it at appeal.
No, you're right. Councillor Sweatman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it's a disappointment, but I have to agree with what Councillor McNaughton says. And to be quite honest, although many of us have voted against this, I think we really, has been said to us, we don't have a leg to stand on, though we voted against it, don't like it. So what is the thing here? Do we need to go for a revote?
We could go for a revote, and to save face, all those who voted against it don't vote but abstain. You could do that if you wished.
I think that's the only way out, Chairman. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night or all day. And I think we spent long enough on this. I think the people that have voted against it have actually come up with some very good reasons why we don't like it. And if we had our way, they wouldn't go ahead, or a smaller development would take place. But, you know, like say, we've got to have good planning policy reasons to refuse it, which they obviously it's pointed out that we haven't, unfortunately. So I think the only way out is to go for a revote, and obviously I think we have to approve it against my bad judgment, but I don't think we've got a leg to stand on, Chairman.
I think you're right, Councillor Sweatman. It's one of those terrible places we get every now and again, which we've got to do. So, Councillor Coote, are you, or can I ask before we go any further, Councillor Sweatman, can you affirm that you're going to withdraw your proposal to refuse, and Councillor de Bell, are you going to agree to that? So
I'm afraid I'm going to have to, with deep regret, Chairman, but I don't think we've got any choice.
Okay.
And I totally agree as well, Mr. Chairman. Sadly.
Okay, I'm just going to... Okay, thank you. I've just had some advice, and one of the officers is going to reply to a member of the committee. So, Councillor Coote, can you...
Quickly, Chairman.
Yes.
I was just going to say that I've been in planning. I'm not quite sure whether I've been in longer than Councillor McNaughton or the same.
No,
but it's
not
certainly
as long as Councillor
McNaughton. It's certainly well over 20 years. And this is an indefensible case if we were, and I'm sure that the applicant would go to appeal, and the end result would be, as you have said, you would probably get something which was not as it is now. And I think that it's just not defensible, and we have no option but to take a revote. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, before I go to that,
my proposal still stands.
Okay, unfortunately, because the first motion failed, I do need a new proposer and a new seconder. Sorry. So can I have a new proposal? You can't. You can't do it, Philip. It's got to be two new councillors. So, Councillor McNaughton and nobody else, well, I'll have to put my hand up as seconding it then. I'll have to second it. Jen, could you, I think a question has been asked, is this constitutional? Can we do this? And the answer is yes, we've done it before, unfortunately. It's not an ideal situation, but we can take another vote. So Councillor McNaughton is the proposer. I am the seconder. Jen, can you read out the names, please?
Yes, so following the debate since the last motion, this is in accordance with the officer's recommendation to grant planning permission subject to the section 106 and the conditions in the report, and the 11th of May 2021 deadline for refusal if the section 106 is not completed. Please can you confirm whether you are for or against or abstain? Councillor Allen.
Abstain.
Councillor Cartwright.
Abstain.
Councillor Cogunner-White.
For.
Councillor Coote.
For.
Councillor DeBell.
Abstain.
Councillor Eggleston.
Against.
Councillor McNaughton.
For.
Chairman.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
Abstain.
Councillor Pulfer.
You're muted. You're still muted.
Abstain, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Councillor Sweatman.
Abstain.
So that's 6 abstaining, 1 against, 4 for, and that's the majority in favour.
Okay, thank you, Jen. That planning permission has been granted. Sorry we had to go through that, but it's a very difficult one, but that's what we're here for. We don't get the free lunches, as they say. Thank you. I think so. Will we say goodbye to Councillor McNaughton on for this one? So it's DM 203955, land south of Southend Cottage, Brighton Road, Hancross, and this one's yours, Debbie.
Thank you, Chairman.
Let's hope we have an easier ride.
Let's hope so. Okay, if I could just draw members' attention to the planning update sheet. We've received an additional representation letter raising concerns regarding sections of the transportation report, which state that closure of the car park would have a small effect on local residents parking, and that there is more than adequate room on street to cater for vehicles. We have an additional pre-commencement condition that we'd like to add, that no development shall commence until a revised landscape proposals drawing showing proposals to maintain and enhance suitable wildlife habitat to prevent any overall net loss of biodiversity resulting from the development. So we recommend that that's added should planning permission be granted, with an additional informative in that respect. We've also received an amended block plan and roof plan from the applicant showing the dormer window, the roof of the dormer window to plot 3 correctly. So this is planning application DM 23955, land to the south of the Southend Cottage and Brighton Road, Hand Cross. And it's the proposed erection of 2 number 3-bed houses and 1 number 4-bed house on an existing car park. Now this application is before committee because the land is owned by Mid Sussex District Council. So here we have the application site outlined in red. So the car park area is actually contained within this yellow area on the location plan, and it falls within the built-up area of Hand Cross. The built-up area boundary actually lies on the outer edge of the car park. And then there is adjoining land to the south, which is currently vegetated scrub land. Land levels slope down to the south. So the application site is sited towards the southern end of Brighton Road. This is a two-way road and predominantly residential with period properties. But further to the south, the road does become one way as it serves the slip road to the A23 southwards. To the west of the site, you've got established vegetation and trees which screen the site from the A23, which is situated at a lower level, land level significantly dropped to the west of the site. To the north of the site, we have a terrace of period cottages. To the east of the site, we have a new residential development, or relatively modern, at Walters Mews. So the access lies opposite the existing car park. And then we have access also to the Red House, which is a detached period property that has been converted to apartments. So here we have the proposed block plan. So we have a pair of two 3-bed semi-detached properties proposed on the northern side of the site, with a detached 4-bed property to the south. Parking is proposed with 2 parking spaces to the side of each 3-bed house, with 3 parking spaces to the south of the detached house. 3 crossovers are proposed onto Brighton Road, which will replace the existing larger crossover. We have 3 rear garden areas as shown here. They're not excessively large given the size of the houses, but they are considered commensurate with adjoining properties. Nearby properties don't have excessively large gardens, and therefore it's deemed in keeping with the character of the area. The south of the site will be retained as a landscaped area to enhance the biodiversity of the site. Now, the development, as I've said, falls within the built-up area of Handcross, and therefore the principle is deemed acceptable as per policy DP6 of the district plan. The development would represent small windfall development, which has been included in the housing targets for the council. So this would make a small contribution to the district's housing targets. So here we have the floor plans for plots 1 and 2, the pair of semi-detached properties. Essentially, the accommodation is set out over 3 floors with 2 bedrooms at 2nd floor level and a 3rd bedroom at 3rd floor level in the roof space. The pair of properties together would measure 10.8 metres wide by a maximum of 9.95 metres deep. The roof plan here shows that you have a pair of gable roofs proposed, situated at 90 degrees to one another. The dwelling house at plot 2 would benefit from a dormer window to the front with a roof light to the rear, and 3 roof lights are proposed to the northern roof slope, which adjoins South End cottages. So here we have an elevational drawing showing how the pair of houses will appear. As you can see, it's rather conventional in design, with the front gable to plot number 1, front and rear gables, and the roof slope pitched to face away from the adjoining dwelling at South End cottages. The dormer window is shown to sit subordinately within the roof slope as encouraged by the council's design guide, and mirrors dormer windows situated in the properties opposite at Walters Mews. A mix of materials are proposed, with facing brickwork at ground floor level, cladding at 1st floor level, and a tiled roof. And these materials can be controlled via a planning condition. The pair of properties will also benefit from modest single-storey rear projections, which will have glazed roofs and full-length glazing and doors. So here we can see the floor plans to the detached property at plot 3. This is the 4-bed property, again set out over 3 floors with bedrooms at 1st floor level and again at 2nd floor level. This dwelling is shown to measure 9.55 metres wide by 6.5 metres deep. And again, 2 flat roof dormers are proposed to the front roof slope, with roof light and 3 roof lights to the rear roof slope. And here we have elevational drawings to show how the 4-bed dwelling will appear. Rather simple in form with a gable roof, and again dormers to the front to match those at plot 2 and those opposite at Waters Mews, again with a mix of materials proposed. This dwelling will measure 9.3 metres wide, and the adjoining, I should mention the adjoining dwellings at plots 1 and 2, a maximum of 9.3 metres high. So here we can see the elevations, how they will appear within the street scene. As you can see, land level slope gently down to the south. The houses at plots 1 and 2 are slightly higher, being at a higher level, and are taller than the adjoining properties at Southend Cottages, although it should be noted they do have a relatively shallow roof. The properties will also be set further forward within the plot. However, it is not considered that this, together with their height, would mean that they appear dominant within the street scene. The design of the properties are considered to reflect those similar modern developments within the street scene, and consequently it's not considered that the proposal would detract from the appearance and character of Brighton Road. Here we have a landscaping plan just showing the layout of the properties again. You can see the development in relation to the existing trees. No trees are proposed to be removed as part of the development, and the council's tree officer has raised no objection, subject to tree protection measures being fully implemented and adhered to. The main issues considered relevant to this application are the loss of the car park and also potential noise issues to future residents. Numerous letters have been received from local residents who live on Brighton Road and use the car park to park. Obviously, it's also used by local residents and people visiting the village to access the high street. The car park provides a maximum of 12 parking spaces. They can park freely for up to a maximum of 23 hours. So the loss of the car park will result in more on-street parking, to which there's already quite a high amount of on-street parking on the eastern side of Brighton Road. The Highways Authority at West Sussex County Council have been consulted on the proposal and have actually advised that they give limited weight to the loss of the car park. This is because the car park is in private ownership and could be closed off at any time. There's no evidence been provided that shows that the local residents have a legal right to park there. And the council's facilities, estates and a facilities team has advised that they wish to dispose of the car park as they do not consider it to have an operational purpose. So the Highways Authority have raised no objections in terms of impact upon highway safety. Should there be issues with regards to obstructive or dangerous parking, then this would fall within the remit of the police to enforce. And they do not consider that the proposal would be harmful to highway safety. A transportation assessment has been included with the application with a car park survey, which suggests that the car park is perhaps used for convenience by local residents and some of the local residents that live at Waters Mews, and that they're parking opposite in the car park rather than using the parking spaces to the rear, which suggests that perhaps the impact on on-street parking would not be as high if people use the parking spaces to the rear of Waters Mews. There's also potential for further on-street parking just to the south of the access to Waters Mews and Red House. In light of the highways comments, your officers do not consider that we can raise an objection to the proposal on highways grounds. The Council's Environmental Protection Officer has commented on the scheme, and a noise assessment has been included as part of the application. The applicant has suggested that a 2.4 metre high acoustic fence would be added on the western side of the boundary to protect future residents from noise from the A23. And with subsequent note, they've suggested that this could be increased to 2.7 metres high. The Council's Environmental Protection Officer has advised that acceptable noise levels could be achieved internally, but as we've discussed earlier, this is mainly provided that windows are closed, but they've raised no objection in this respect. However, they have raised an objection to the noise levels in the external garden areas and external amenity areas, which they consider would be unacceptable, and such that the noise levels would be likely to have a significant adverse impact upon future residents. In cases such as this, where an adverse impact is established, it falls for the proposal to be weighed against the need for the development. So members must consider the potential issue of unacceptable external noise levels against the need for the development. Now, this development would provide a small windfall development of 3 houses in what is considered to be a sustainable location, situated just 250 metres south of Hancross High Street, where there's access to shops and local services. So as such, with this in mind, and members may also wish to consider that the development will be sited adjacent to existing residential properties, which may be likely to experience similar noise levels. In addition, officers consider that there is an element of buyer beware with the scheme, obviously given the application's proximity to the A23, any future buyers would consider that there would be likely to be potential noise issues. As such, and with this in mind, and when considering the planning balance, whilst an objection has been raised, it's only to the external garden areas, we consider that this would be outweighed by the merits of the scheme and providing 3 houses that would contribute to the District Council's housing target. So if I can just show you photos of the site. Here we are looking onto the car park. You can see the vegetation screening the A23 to the west of the site. Here you've got to the north of the site, Southend Cottage, which is screened with a fence, and then they've got a brick outbuilding to the rear. This is looking towards the south of the site, or the scrubland to the south of the car park. And this is the slip road that heads off down to the A23. So here we can see Southend Cottage to the north of the site. Now there are some windows affected, but I believe these are a bathroom window and toilet window. This window here serves a living room, but it is a secondary window. It's also served by a window on the front elevation. So we do not consider that the proposal would be significantly harmful to neighbouring amenities. This photo here shows a view looking northwards with Southend Cottage here in the terrace of properties, and then you've got the new modern residential properties opposite at Waters Mews with period houses beyond. Here we are looking down towards the south of the site, as you can see the access opposite, and then it's a 2-way road further down to a more southern access serving residential properties, and then beyond that it's a slip road to the A23. And here we're looking to the east of the site, edge of the residential properties at Waters Mews, and then the access to Waters Mews and that to the Red House. Okay, so that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Debbie. We have no speakers, and members will probably be aware the only reason it is here because Mid Sussex District Council own the land. I'm the ward councillor. I'm satisfied that this is a good use of land. Does anybody wish to debate? Councillor Coote, you're muted.
I was just going to comment on 2 things, Chairman. Number one, if we are minded to pass this, the piece of spare land, I wonder if that could be used temporarily for the builder so that we wouldn't have confusion on the road. Another thought was that as we are losing a little bit of car park, as that's a piece of spare land, could that not be turned into additional car parking, which would serve the new houses for any visitors they have, and everybody would end up quite happily.
I think in the update sheet, Councillor Coote, there was more than enough parking on this road. I do know it very well. And Councillor Sweatman was on the planning committee in the previous administration where we gave planning permission for, I think it was 8 or 9 houses just up the road at the South Downs maintenance, where they used to maintain the coaches there, and that's turned out to be a superb little development, and I don't hear any complaints about the fact the A23, it is quite a long way down from there. And as for the green open space, I think the idea is to keep it so that it's like a bit of a green lung, as we heard from last planning meeting, a bit of a green lung.
In which case, Chairman, I'll propose it and I'll look for a seconder.
Anybody seconding it? As on the wall, Councillor Phillips, do you wish to speak, or are you going to second it?
Just a second, Chairman.
Okay, Jen, can you take us to the vote, please?
Yes, so the motion is that planning permission be granted in accordance with the officer's recommendation, subject to the conditions in Appendix A and the additional one and the informative in the update sheet. Can you please confirm for or against or abstain? Councillor Allen.
For.
Councillor Cartwright.
For.
Councillor Cogunner-White.
She's had to leave the room.
Oh, sorry.
She texted me and said her broadband's gone down.
Okay. Councillor Coote.
For.
Councillor DeBell.
For.
Councillor Eggleston.
For.
Councillor McNaughton.
He's not here. He's got a presentation.
Sorry. Chairman.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
For.
Councillor Poulter.
For.
And Councillor Sweatman.
For.
And that's unanimous and carried.
Thank you. That application has been approved. We'll now go to application number 7, which is DM 203988. And again, I'm going to say goodbye temporarily to Councillor Pulfer. So if you could mute and switch off and do whatever you've got to do. He's gone. Again, the only reason this is here is because, as you've heard from Councillor Pulfer in his declaration, that it's a tree in his garden, but he's not the actual applicant. It's his next door neighbour. Do members wish to see this tree that is doomed? No. Okay. Can we go? Councillor Coote.
I was going to just propose it, Chairman, and look for a seconder.
Anybody wish to second it? Councillor Eggleston. Are you speaking or are you seconding it?
I'm seconding.
Okay, thank you. Jen, can you take us to the vote, please?
Yeah, so this motion is that in accordance with the officer's recommendation, permission be granted for the proposed tree work subject to conditions in Appendix A. Councillor Allen.
For.
Councillor Cartwright.
For.
Councillor Coote.
For.
Councillor DeBell.
For.
Councillor Eggleston.
For.
Councillor McNaughton.
For.
Chairman.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
For.
And Councillor Sweatman.
For.
And that's unanimous and carried.
Okay, that's the recommendation, is the permission being granted. Okay, and item 8 is DM 204535. It's here because it's owned by Mid Sussex District Council. It's the Station Road car park in Burgess Hill, and I think this one is Catherine. In light of the fact we have had a couple of people and we have a public speaker, I've asked for a quick presentation from Catherine.
Thank you, Chairman. The application is for temporary permission for the siting of a shipping container on the eastern side of Station Road car park, and will contain 2 external air conditioning units and a 2-metre high closed board fence. I'd like to first draw members' attention to the update sheet. The agent has addressed some of the comments raised by neighbouring residents concerning potential radiation from the proposal, and has confirmed that the equipment within the shipping container does not generate any radiation. The proposal is part of the full fibre network project, which will create a fibre optic network between Brighton through the district up to Crawley, and will improve the digital infrastructure and connectivity for residents and businesses in Mid Sussex. The project has already begun in Burgess Hill, and the proposal will provide a temporary fibre exchange facility which will allow the network within Burgess Hill to connect to the digital exchange within Brighton and allow the fibre optic to come into use. A permanent fibre optic exchange is planned within the Martlets development, but that hasn't come forward at the same speed as the project, and therefore require a temporary position in the meantime. The proposed container, as indicated with the cursor, it would be located on the eastern side of the car park, with Station Road forked to the north to the roundabout, and to the south with the residential properties beyond that to the south. To the north is Waitrose and the car park, and then the Martlets beyond, and then to the west is the rest of the car park and McDonald's beyond that. The proposal would be situated on 5 existing parking spaces within the car park. As you can see here with my cursor, that's where the 2 air conditioning units would be placed on the northern side, furthest away from residential properties, and the red line boundary of the site indicates the position of the 2-metre high boundary fence. Here's the elevations, again showing the air conditioning units on the northern side, and then a similar representation of a 2-metre closed boarded fence. No objection has been raised by any of the consultees, and the environmental health officer has recommended a condition to protect neighbouring residents from potential noise generated from the proposal. There are a couple of photographs from within the car park looking towards the east, and just the top photo, my cursor indicating where exactly this would be on the 5 car park spaces. It's quite an open character with low hedging and trees around the site, and this is just from another position within the car park looking in the same direction. And then both these photos are taken from the east looking into the car park, and as you can see, the character of the area is quite open around here. The proposal would be highly visible within the wider locality, and generally shipping containers, by their nature of their form and materials, aren't considered to be high quality design, and would be out of keeping with the character of the area. However, given the mitigation by the fencing proposed to obscure it from view, the temporary nature of the proposal, and the long-term benefits to people within the immediate area, and then the district as a whole, both economically and socially, it is considered that the proposal wouldn't be refusable on design and character grounds, so long as there is a sufficient condition. It's given a 3-year temporary permission, with the caveat that after this time the land is restored to its current state. The application is before committee because it's council owned land, and with a recommendation of approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Catherine. We do have a public speaker. It's a Mr. Founds. Where could you unmute? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you wish to? Well, you've got 3 minutes, and if you'd like to start, I will set the timer.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my name's Chris Founds, and I'm responsible for delivering the digital and place agenda across Mid Sussex, and specifically this full fibre network. I think we'll all recognise the importance of having good quality digital connectivity, particularly in light of the current pandemic. The council have been successful in securing over £7 million worth of government grants to support the delivery of its own high capacity, high speed full fibre network, connecting mid Sussex, and of course creating important links across to Brighton and London, as has been described. The fibre network is an essential part of our post-COVID economic recovery plan and directly supports employment opportunities, access to digital skills, and will encourage businesses to invest in Burgess Hill and across the authority area. The fibre exchange is a really important part of this network and connects the individual fibre routes back to a common location. More importantly, it also allows other telecoms operators to connect to our network, enabling that future expansion and also ensuring that our residents and businesses have access to full fibre at some later stage with full gigabit capability. The application, as has been heard, is a temporary 3-year period. And actually, this gives us time to consider other permanent locations, somewhere that would stimulate and support the development of business clusters in technology and innovation. The temporary location at the Station Road car park aims to minimise the impact on the local area. And we've already heard about those additional mitigations we are proposing and the low noise ventilation units, which would only operate during extreme temperatures and would be significantly quieter than any ambient surrounding noise. There are no mobile telecommunications requirements at this site, as the network already provides that fibre optic telecommunication. The fibre exchange poses no associated health risks and would be a secure facility. So the provision of high quality fibre infrastructure enables our local businesses and residents to enjoy a much better, higher quality of connectivity over the coming months. And we hope this application can be supported by the committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Force. Actually finished before your 3 minutes. Well done. Thank you very much. Councillor Eggleston, this is your ward. Do you wish to speak, or do you wish to propose, or what do you wish to do?
I wish to speak, Chairman.
You can speak.
May I first start with a technical question, if I could have an answer to it? So the fibre exchange is connected to the unit that's on the corner of Station Road that runs down the residential area and the retail area. Are we limited to a length of cable, or could can you have a longer cable to connect to that unit that's there already?
Catherine, that's a very technical question. Do you want to wish to answer that one, or can you answer that one? Or do you...
Thank you, Chairman. That's not something within the remits of the planning application, and maybe more of the a technical thing for when it comes forward. If I just reshare my screen quickly, you can see the position of the fibre exchange here and the connection into the existing line that sort of runs underneath the road, and obviously it's quite a short amount of distance to anything that's underneath the highway, and highways have included an informative that anything to do with the road, they would require a separate application with them. But other than that, I don't think there's anything that I can comment on further.
Do you have a photograph of that where you showed us when you had a photograph looking at this? No, there, that one. Can we? Yeah, you can. Is that the behind that black car? Is that bit you're on about? There's a box.
The black
there.
car
Yeah.
here. So there is a line underneath the highway, and so that the fibre exchange would connect into that underneath to the existing fibre
network.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Councillor Eggleston, is that okay?
Yeah, that helps a bit. There's a reason for the question. So firstly, the 2 metre height. So if you look at the 2 metre close boarded timber fence, doesn't obscure the container, because the container's almost 3 meters high. So there'll be almost a meter of the container that will be clearly visible. And on the design, one of the air conditioning units is towards the top of the container. So that close boarded fence isn't going to remove all of the noise that the 2 air conditioning units produce. It will only reduce the noise of one of them. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, if you were going to choose to place a container in that car park and wanted to make it really noticeable, you'd put it at the top of that car park, because it can be, because it's at the highest elevated point of that car park. And the reason why I asked about the length of the cable is that, you know, if it does need to go into the car park, and I fully understand that we've got to make the full fibre project work, so you know, on a temporary basis this is going to be needed, but surely there must be another point within the car park. If you can't find another location in town, there must be another point in the car park where that container, properly boarded, so a 3 meter high board, not a 2 meter high board, has less of an impact on neighbouring residents, because where it is at the moment, you know, it clearly is detrimental to the amenity of local residents, and I would oppose it firstly on those grounds at that location, and secondly, without additional mitigation, so that 2 meter boarded fence isn't sufficient, I would oppose it on DP29 grounds as well, on noise. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I ask any other member of the committee, we do have an environmental health officer here, Nicholas Bennett. You mentioned about the noise. Mr. Bennett, could you give us any idea how noisy this is going to be, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening. Well, the details supplied by the applicants are that the noise from the air conditioning units is 44 decibels, and there's 2 of them, so combined they'd make 47. Now, the main shielding won't actually come from the fence, it'll come from the fact they're on the far end of the container. So the line of sight to the units will be blocked by the container, and that is in effect a good level of shielding. The distance from the houses is around about 30 metres, maybe slightly over that, and that will also reduce noise levels by approximately 28 to 30 dB. So the noise levels at the houses in Station Road will be virtually inaudible. So it may be that at the very quietest part of the night, you may just about be able to hear them, but in my view, there's no significant adverse effect from noise. And in fact, the noise levels would meet both the British Standard 4142 for assessing industrial noise, and it would also meet the WHO noise level guidelines for nighttime noise. They are quiet fans, and in addition, I've recommended a condition to say that the applicants ensure that the noise levels do meet the BS 4142 standard of being 5 decibels below the average background noise.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Thank you.
Very, very informative. Thank you. Councillor Cartwright.
I just would pick up on the use of the word temporary, insofar as that when I first stood as a councillor in 2010, there was an immediate promise of a town centre development, which still hasn't been fulfilled and likely not to be fulfilled for some time. I think that the siting of it on that corner is a bit of an eyesore, and it's not really going to look very good. No problem in supporting full fibre network, very good project. And the car park it is quite suitable because it never gets fully overloaded, that one. But I think having it there, you know, with a rather ugly fence around it in full sight of the town centre is not really going to be very helpful. And it would be acceptable more to move it more out of the way in the car park and probably put something a little bit more greener around it so that we don't notice it. But those were my only comments.
Yes, thank you. I mean, we've got the applicant here. I mean, I'm sure it's not beyond the wit of man that the town council and the applicant can just come up with some sort of children's project to perhaps obscure it by some drawings. We've got it all around the district, things like that. But this is where it was deemed as least obtrusive, and we are where we are on it. Unfortunately, this is as before. We can only go with what's in front of us. We can't then decide, well, we don't like it there. Can we move it a bit over to that side or the other side? Because if we move the other side and McDonald's goes ape at us. Councillor Coote.
Chairman, I was going to propose this, bearing in mind the current financial situation of the country vis-a-vis the COVID. We need to move forward as quickly as possible. When this is all over, we're going to need to move like the proverbial. And I think this is a great idea, and it is only temporary. Yes, it's not a very pretty thing, but it's not going to really offend anybody much. And as has been said, it's only temporary. And so therefore, Chairman, I would propose as officer's recommendation.
Okay, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Sweatman. Right, Jen, can you read out the list, please?
Yes, so in accordance with the officer's recommendation, planning permission be approved subject to the conditions outlined at Appendix A. Please confirm for, against or abstain. Councillor Allen.
For.
Councillor Cartwright.
Against.
Councillor Coote.
For.
Councillor DeBell.
For.
Councillor Eggleston.
Against.
Councillor McNaughton.
For.
Chairman.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
For.
Councillor Pulfer.
For.
And Councillor Sweatman.
For.
8 for, 2 against, and that's carried.
Thank you, Jen. Application has been approved. Thank you. Item 9 is question pursuant to Council Rule Procedure 10.2. Due notice which has been given. I have none. So I close the meeting at 18:15. Can I remind members just to remain in place while the live streaming ends? Thank you.